Can't wait, can you? Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah. Born in Kansas City, Missouri, and raised in San Pedro, California, Misty Copeland began her ballet studies at the late age of 13. At 15, she won first place in the Music Center Spotlights Awards. She studied at the San Francisco Ballet School. Please stand up, not just for what she's going to say, but for what she's already done. And help me welcome Misty Copeland.
How'd you know that was my song? Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you to the Power Strides organization. This is an incredible honor. When I heard that the theme was unlocking your power, it was like, wow, that is something that I've carried with me throughout my life. From the time I started training as a ballerina to the time I became a professional ballerina, it's something that I've constantly had to bring with me through each situation that presented itself, whether it be negative or whether it be positive experiences. But I must say that as a dancer and as an artist, one of the biggest things that I've learned to carry with me throughout my life is communicating. And I learned to do that through movement and through dance. So forgive me as I'm still learning to communicate with words. It's become second nature that we speak with our bodies. So it's pretty cool to be able to learn along the way by getting opportunities like this to speak in front of people. So I'm going to share a little bit from my memoir, different passages at different points in my life, and how I learned to unlock my power through each of those experiences. Before I start, are any of you guys fans of the ballet? Yes. Wow. I like that. Have any of you guys attended a ballet performance? This is impressive. I wasn't expecting this. Okay, but this one, have any of you guys taken a ballet class? Okay. Well, I hope that those of you who don't know a lot about ballet will learn something from my life and my experiences and the beauty of art and how much it changed my life and made me into the woman that I am today. And for you ballet fans, that you will continue to support me in the classical ballet world, and we'll get you to some performances in New York City. Unlocking my power has enabled me to push forward and be the woman that I am today. This first passage that I'm going to share with you from the memoir is a moment when I learned that I would be performing the role of Firebird, which, as you saw, is a pretty big deal to be given the opportunity, number one, as an African-American woman in a company the caliber of American Ballet Theater. But how the situation presented itself, I think, was even more beautiful. When I learned over Twitter that I was cast as the Firebird. Yeah, it's not like it used to be. You didn't see the casting on a board. I happened to find out on Twitter. It was an off period from American Ballet Theater, and I was working with Dance Theater of Harlem, which is the first African-American ballet company to ever be created by Arthur Mitchell. The first African-American man to dance in an elite company and be a principal dancer, and that was with New York City Ballet. I was with these dancers that looked like me, and I don't have a lot of experience of dancing with, surrounded by other brown dancers. And I was on a break looking at my phone, and I just burst into tears. And the fact that they were there and completely understood how powerful it was, and the importance that it wasn't just about the fact that I was cast to perform, that I was getting the opportunity to bring forth all of those generations of African American dancers that worked so hard and that weren't always recognized, but that they were going to have the opportunity to be on the stage with me that night. So this is the excerpt from that. I know that I'll never perfect the ballet technique, ever. That's why I love it so much. It never becomes boring, even though I've done all these movements in this very studio 1,000,000 times over 13 years. It's my safe place where I can experiment. I sweat, grunt, make faces that would never pass on the Metropolitan Opera House stage. It's the time to push myself beyond my limits so that my performances can feel effortless and fresh. Not everyone wants to push themselves to that brink of breaking, but it's what you commit to when you're a professional. The very present reality that you may break instead of bend. Today I don't jump. My left shin has been hurting, and I don't want to risk straining it before tonight's performance. I have always been known as a jumper, able to soar to great heights and land like a feather on the stage. The firebird flutters and flies, but it's been difficult to practice her jumps the past several weeks. The pain in my leg has been intense, and I've had to save every bit of my strength for the actual performance. It's getting close to showtime. I've been a soloist for 5 years, and the 11 of us have a dressing room all to ourselves, but I've never used it. I prefer the comforting camaraderie of the dressing area shared by the Corps de Ballet. I spent 6 years as a part of the Corps de Ballet, and with them I want to remain, preparing for my first principal role in a classical ballet surrounded by loving friends. Nothing feels different between us, even though I'll dance the lead. That, at least, provides normalcy in this extraordinary night. 15 minutes. I plop down on the floor of the dressing room area's lounge, stretching, flexing, staring at myself in the mirror. I stamp down that thought as quickly as it emerges. I think to myself, this is it. This is my moment. Finally, the moment to shine, to prove myself, to represent Black dancers at the highest level of ballet. This is for the little brown girls. But my shin is throbbing uncontrollably. I know deep down that I can't go on much longer with such pain. Tonight will be the first time I perform as the Firebird in New York, and pray it won't be my last. I remember the first time I stood on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera House. I was 19 years old, still struggling to find my place in ABT. I traced the marley floor with my pointe shoes and imagined myself on the stage, not as a member of the corps, but as a principal dancer. It felt right. It felt like a promise someday. Somehow it was going to happen for me. A decade later, I'm here, waiting for my moment when I will explode onto the stage in a burst of red and gold. Outside, the largest crowd I have ever seen waits, prominent members of the African American community, and trailblazers in the world of dance who have seldom received their due are here tonight. Arthur Mitchell, Deborah Lee, Star Jones, Nelson George, but I know I will also dance for those who aren't here, who have never seen a ballet, who pass the Metropolitan Opera House but cannot imagine what goes on inside. They may be poor like I have been, insecure like I have been, misunderstood like I have been. I will be dancing for them too, especially for them. This is for the little brown girls. That was a long passage. I think that what I learned from writing this book and looking back over times like this is how I had to overcome the stresses that, as a performer especially, but anyone in life, that can just overtake you if you let too much of it, the negativity, get inside. I think we have so much power in our minds. You know, if I would have let the fact that I probably knew deep down inside that my shin bone had breaks in it, if I let that take over and not allow me to perform to the best of my ability, if I allowed the fact that there were so many African American people there, like this is our moment, this is our chance to prove that we belong in this world. If I let that pressure get the best of me, I wouldn't have been able to have what I think is probably one of the greatest moments I've had yet in my career. And I just really think it's about believing in yourself, having faith in the work that you put into something, and that unlocking your power, just the ability to have that strength, this inner strength that you can push through anything. And I, without a doubt, have experienced that over and over in my life. And I just think it's something that anyone can apply to their lives, no matter what it is you're doing. But that was a big one I had to had to experience and overcome. But that wasn't at all the first. I mean, it definitely started early on in my life. When I first discovered ballet, I was at a boys and girls club. I just wanted to dance. I loved music, like that hip hop that was playing, Pharrell. I loved Mariah Carey. I grew up listening to a lot of soul and R&B, and so that's what I wanted to do. When I discovered dance in my bedroom, I was like, I'm going to audition for this dance team. They made me captain, and I was told, you need to take a ballet class. And it was like, I was an extremely shy child. I had so much fear and anxiety within me that I couldn't imagine doing something that took me so far out of my comfort zone. Just another example of allowing someone to come into my life that's going to introduce me to experiencing something new, something different, something that I didn't know at the time was going to change the path of my life. That woman's name was Cindy Bradley. So I'm going to read an excerpt from that moment when I first started taking ballet class. I quit. That's when I muttered to myself as I walked out of that first class at the Boys and Girls Club, determined that it would also be my last. I'd spent an hour feeling like a broken marionette, twisting my torso, stretching my arms, uncertain all the while of what I was doing. Was this even dance? Standing in a line with a dozen girls, spending an hour practicing how to flex your toes, hold your arms, bend your knees. This wasn't anything like the stomps and jumps I loved on the drill team. I scurried past the gym on my way to other activities the next day, the day after, and the day after that. But Cindy wasn't giving up. About a week after I decided I had no interest in continuing, she spotted me, trapped. I reluctantly followed her to the front of her class. This was about as bad as it could get for nervous old me. I felt overwhelmed in that first class. It was too much information coming too fast, and I was way behind the other students. I hated feeling unprepared and confused. And now to have all eyes on me, fixed on me when I didn't know what I was doing, I was scared to death. But Cindy proceeded to gently stretch and mold my body into various positions, using me as an example for the other kids. She lifted my leg to my ear, tugged and flexed my feet. Whatever pose she conjured, I was able to hold. Cindy said that in all her years of dancing and all her years of teaching, she'd never seen anyone quite like me. I'm not sure I believed her, but her praise piqued my curiosity, and I sheepishly joined the rest of the students at the bar, deciding to give her classes another try. Ballet teachers usually create combinations, mixing and matching the steps and positions of ballet technique for their students to execute, but Cindy kept it simple. She would lead and tentatively stray from the bar to follow. I stood on my tiptoes and held out my arms as though I was cradling a giant balloon. My arms were rounded, floating, strong enough to not drop my imaginary sphere, but soft enough to make it pop. Then I spun around, lifting one foot and placing it down into fifth position again and again until I had made my way halfway across the gym, my first pirouettes. One afternoon, I lifted my arms above my head and leaped. My right leg stretched in front of me, my leg extended behind me. It was like the splits I would do in the backyard or during drill team practice, only in the air. My first grand jeté. I would do many more, and in those moments when I was soaring, getting stronger, going higher, I felt exhilarated. 8 weeks after walking into Cindy's school, I stood on point for the first time. You're going to dance in front of kings and queens, Cindy said. You will have life most people cannot even imagine. I began to believe her. You know, it's experiences like that that I think I still carry with me today, that at some point, all the negativity, all of the doubts, the self-doubts that you may have, I think you have to allow people into your life. You have to believe that people are going to see you in a way that you can't see yourself. And I don't think that you're completely capable of reaching your fullest potential unless you allow people's words in, the people that are there to support you, there that care about you. And I don't know where I would be if I didn't have a Cindy Bradley that came into my life and said, "You're beautiful, you're capable of doing this. I've never seen anyone like you. It's okay to be different. I love your brown skin." All of these things, I don't know if I hadn't heard, I would be where I am today. But I just think that it's so much a vital part of how we grow as human beings, is allowing those people to come into our lives and listening and accepting their words, even if we don't completely believe it in the beginning. And that's definitely been a big part of something that I have to remind myself over and over again. At times when I start to have those doubts, but I think it's something that each of us can carry throughout our lives, is just keeping those people around you who are going to be there for you when you have those moments of doubt.